Good morning, everybody in America. Good afternoon to everybody across Europe, and good evening to everybody in Asia Pac. My name is Daryn Smith. I'm going to be your host for the next while. Apologies for the few minutes late. We had, I think, our first technical issue that we just needed to get sorted out. You with us today with Grow with Inbound, and we have been going since early this morning, Singapore time, moving across into Dublin, and then into Berlin, where we spoke with Gregor in Hubspot Berlin. And we've had, in total today, we're going to have 10 different sessions running. We've got 20 fantastic presenters across the 4 continents, a bunch of marketers, salespeople, and customer service experts to share their wealth of knowledge with you. Joining me now is going to be my guest, Gayle Wheaton. We're going to speak about go-to-market strategy. So welcome, Gayle.
Thank you. I feel honored that I am the first person to have a technical issue on the webinar. So thank you for supporting me through that.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, it's only 9 o'clock in Boston, so you're still, under your first coffee at the moment.
Yeah. So for people that are watching, I'm coming in through my phone, so my face is going to be really big the entire time, but it'll be good.
Good. All right. So maybe let's get started with just you giving us a bit of an overview of yourself, your background, before we go into the details around go-to-market.
Perfect. Yeah. So I started my career in consulting, and then I went to business school at the University of Chicago Booth, and I transitioned into tech and marketing and worked at Google for almost 7 years, mostly in the New York office. And then I moved up to Boston, where HubSpot is located. And I've already had a few different roles at HubSpot. So I worked with solutions partners, where I met Daryn. And right now I'm working on the Service Hub product. My role is Director of GotoMarket Strategy, and I can tell you all about that.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So if we get straight into the kind of the detail, like go-to-market strategy is like, it's got so many different interpretations of what it is, what it covers, the steps, the strategies and methodologies that people might take for go-to-market strategy. So, as in your role now and in the past, do you take the typical kind of target audience, marketing plan, sales strategy approach, or do you have a different way that you approach go-to-market?
So I have this framework that I love that I learned at Google, which is really all-encompassing of everything go-to-market. And just for reference, I think if folks are coming from different companies, my role could be called something like global product lead, product strategy and commercialization, sometimes chief of staff to the general manager. But what I am doing is focused on 2 things. The framework is bringing the market to product and bringing the product to market. So if you think about the market to product side, that's understanding the market, competitors, competition, and sharing these insights with product teams to support product strategy. And then on the other side, bringing product to market means collaborating with product operations, pricing, legal, sales and marketing to determine how to price features, how to position them, how to enable sales teams, and how to communicate to customers. So it's a lot, which I love. I love how broad it is. But at the end of the day, I'm managing a lot of different stakeholders, and I'm focused on driving Service Hub revenue, which is that specific hub I focus on at HubSpot.
And tell me, have you always kind of stuck to the specific framework, or like has things changed over time? Or is there a time when you felt that you've now found something that kind of really works and you've just kind of stuck to that?
Yeah, I feel like it works. So I think that the part that can change is the company that you're in and how the company goes to market. So the framework is always the same, but you want to align your framework to how the broader company is thinking about your particular product and how the broader company goes to market. So I can share examples from Google and from HubSpot that kind of like show how That framework still is the same, but the companies go to market in different ways.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different. Some companies might have, dedicated marketing teams, dedicated products teams. Maybe it's different if you're taking a service versus a SaaS product or physical product to market. I'm sure it's different across so many, but I am interested in those examples because both Google and HubSpot, I'm sure there's many guests today that kind of look up to both of those companies. So really interested in those two examples. If you wouldn't mind sharing a kind of a little bit more.
I would love to. And I should note that all these are my own opinions. So hopefully that gives me a pass. But so at Google, when I started there was about 80,000 employees. And my product line was Google Analytics Premium, which had just launched within the last year. So to start, we operated autonomously. We had our own product teams, our own engineering teams, our own sales and marketing teams. And it really was like a startup within Google. It was just 100 people, all in all, trying to get this product off the ground. So this actually worked really well that we could be autonomous because we didn't have to fit into any particular mold. And if you think about other Google teams like AdWords, DoubleClick, they're focused on like really high spending advertisers. And Google Analytics was so new that it wasn't mature enough for those companies yet. So we, by being autonomous, could be really scrappy and figure out our product market fit without adding cross-functional complexity. But over time, we proved that we were successful. And so we expanded our product line from, I don't know if you remember this was like a long time ago now, but we expanded our product line from Google Analytics to Google Analytics 360 Suite. And that included products like Tag Manager, Data Studio, BigQuery. And then we merged with the DoubleClick marketing team and we became the Google marketing platform. And so what that meant for the go-to-market side is that when we did this expansion and evolution, I was no longer thinking about just Google Analytics, but I was also thinking about Google Analytics plus DoubleClick. So if you think back to that framework, market to product, product to market, on the market to product side, our target customers shifted from being smaller companies to being larger advertisers. And our competitors shifted from being point solutions like Kissmetrics to expansive tools like Adobe Omniture. And then on the product to market side, our messaging shifted from just use Google Analytics to figure out what's going on your site, understand what people are doing, what their user behavior is, to understand this full 360 view of your customers, because you can now match your website data with your advertising data. And then the last thing that shifted was the sales strategy. And instead of our reps like really hunting for new deals, we partnered closely with the DoubleClick team to figure out which customers could benefit from Google Analytics.
Now, before we go off Google, I have one additional question to ask here. So you've got these different go-to-market teams that seem quite product specific, but from the outside, at least, when I look at Google, like it seems like quite an integrated go-to-market approach where you start kind of with a free product and maybe there's a product that eventually you end up paying for. So are there kind of different layers of go-to-market people? Like some people are looking across the entire Google suite, and then others are looking at specific products. How does that roll up, or how does that work? So it does give that feeling of it being connected.
Yeah, I think it's probably always changing, really. So like when I started, we had this autonomous team that was just Google Analytics 3 and then Google Analytics 360. But then we merged with the DoubleClick teams. And I think, and this is after I have left, what could have been a solution is that you can have a role where there's like a quarterback of a sales team. And so they're the person who's interfacing with the customer, and they can bring in different counterparts that really have expertise in different product areas. I'm not 100% sure how it works out, but I think that is like a common evolution that companies take when they start having more and more product lines.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right.
Yeah.
So let's find about how. Well, the other story that you mentioned is HubSpot. How does it work at HubSpot?
Yeah. So the framework is still the same. market to product, product to market. And then I'll talk specifically about Service Hub because that is my baby. So just in case folks are not as familiar with Service Hub or HubSpot, you guys all know that HubSpot launched Marketing Hub about 10 years ago, Sales Hub about 8 years ago, and Service Hub 4 years ago. So we're a newer hub, but we've still seen really amazing growth. And from the beginning, Service Hub has been part of this HubSpot platform go-to-market. So it's kind of the reverse of the Google Analytics evolution. Instead of just focusing on Service Hub go-to-market, I'm understanding HubSpot overall and how Service Hub plugs in. So what happens is that we see a lot of success in selling Service Hub as a bundle with marketing and sales hubs. And it's so attractive to customers because customers want this 360 view of their customers. They want to provide a really comprehensive customer experience, and you need all three hubs to do this. And so customers were very excited to buy the bundle when we first launched. And now what we're seeing is there's, in addition to the sales marketing service bundle, we're also seeing a lot of success with sales and service just as a bundle together. And this makes sense because these departments work so closely together in organizations, and customers want to ensure that after they acquire a customer, they're servicing that customer, they're providing great service, and then hopefully upselling and cross-selling that customer to deepen the relationships. And if you have the two tools, you know which customers are happy so that you can do that upselling. So the framework there is when you think about the market to product side, the target customers and the competitions haven't changed that much because we're still offering a comprehensive understanding of your customer. And on the product to market side, what we're doing is we're sharing these success stories with sales and service with our customers, with our sales team, so that they can feel more comfortable with those two hubs together.
That's really interesting. We do have a question in the chat there from Alex, which I thought was quite good. You mentioned that this framework is you've been using it for a long time now. As time has evolved, sales enablement has become more and more important. So, has the framework changed in how you enable a sales team?
Yeah, I think that comes back to the point of like understanding your role and how your product fits into the larger company. So I've seen it work both ways, where you could have a sales enablement team focused just on enabling folks on your specific product and doing it on a regular cadence. Or I've seen it work another way, where you could have an enablement team that focuses on the platform overall, and they focus on your particular product when there's big updates to be made. I don't think there's necessarily a right answer. It kind of depends on like the org structure of the company. But the one thing that's helpful is to have a close partnership with those folks, because you guys need to work together to create enablement materials.
Okay, so but in summary, kind of the framework holds true no matter what company size or product maturity. You've got your market to product and then your product to market.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. It's not a crazy framework, but I think it works. And I've shown it to some people who weren't familiar and their minds were blown and they really like it. So I think it's a good one.
I love it. Yeah, I really, really like it. So I've been privy to a couple of discussions around future of product, or I'm part of the partner advisory council or committee for HubSpot, and whenever something that may be a little bit like, should we go this way or that way, a little bit of unsurety, somebody in the room says, where is the data to support this decision? So I know HubSpot is super obsessed with data. I'd like to find out, how do you typically make data-driven decisions, and how does your team rely on them?
Yes, so love data. We do have a lot of data. We have very smart people working to understand this data. Specifically, there's two teams that I work with a lot and really could not do my job without them. They are the product operations team and the voice of the customer team. So I'll talk about the product operations team first. The data that they're sharing with me is business performance metrics and product usage metrics. So on the business performance side, I'm typically looking at 3 segments of data. The first is on revenue and year-over-year growth. And so that's telling me how well is my hub growing? Are we achieving healthy growth rates year over year? The second segment is new business drivers. How well are we acquiring new business? How are we acquiring new business? Is it cross-sell versus upsell versus new business to HubSpot? And are customers growing with us over time? And then the third segment is anything detracting from the business. So I'm looking at cancellations and downgrades too. And then what I do with these is I have my dashboard and I look at it every morning with a cup of coffee. And then I'm also looking at a report that the product operations team creates on a monthly basis. And I'm trying to understand, are there particular trends that I should be researching further? So they can show me a lot of data, and what I can do is like make sense of it because I have the experience of working with customers and working with sales reps. So one example, recently, we saw an uptick in a particular segment. And what I do is then I figure out which reps sold those deals. I go talk to the reps, maybe talk to the customers, understand if there's any consistency in use case, types of customers, region, etc. And then I can package up that information and share it with the rest of our sales team. And then I can tell you about the product usage side too, but just in case you have questions on that.
No, tell me about the product usage side. I've got one other question after this, but you go first.
Okay. So on the product usage side, the main metric that I'm looking at is what we call customer activation. And it's showing me what features customers are activating on and whether they're activating in general. And so at a macro level, I'm looking at this because our renewals are correlated with activation. And so it's helping me understand, like, if this cohort is activating, then I'm expecting that they'll renew in the future. And then on a micro level, I can dig into a specific feature. For example, we just launched a new beta. And so we were expecting a lot of activation because people were really excited about it, but we just didn't see that there was a ton of activation for this particular feature. And so we talked to the customers. They told us that they couldn't find the feature. And so that was a key issue. So we moved the placement from the settings up to the top navigation. Now it's much more discoverable and the activation metrics are hitting what we expected to hit. So it's really helpful for predictions and just to like make sure things are going according to plan.
So you mentioned Service Hub is one of the newer products at HubSpot. And when you talk through these statistics that you're looking at and the reports that get generated for you by the different teams, there's amazing information in there. So my question is, like, have these reports kind of developed over time, or because Marketing Hub was mature, Sales Hub was more mature, like when you started the Service Hub feature, you just started automatically get this data? The reason I'm asking is I can imagine there are people listening going, oh, I don't have any of this information. Where do I even start?
Yeah, I will say, so when I joined HubSpot 3 years ago, there's a person named Chris Hogan, who's now the VP of Corporate Development. And he kind of started this product operations team. And I don't know where he came from or how he had this knowledge, but he started product operations for us. And I think, like, I'm totally assuming, but I'm assuming that he started with Marketing Hub and Sales Hub and spoke with those general managers to say, like, what are the things that you're looking for, that you're looking to see? And they probably partnered together to create these reports. And from there, you have a baseline of things that you want to measure hub to hub. But then ours is always evolving. Like if there's a particular sales motion that we want to push or a strategy that we're pursuing, we'll work with the product operations team and we'll say, we want to be able to track this. We have these things in mind. What would you guys recommend? And we work together to create a new dashboard or something where we can continue to look at it. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but I think like having strong analysts is good. And then it's really a partnership between the leader of like the general manager or whoever that might be and the analyst.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. That was a good answer. So 10 years ago, when I signed up as a HubSpot partner, my channel consultant was a lady called Amanda, and I believe she headed or started the Voice of the Customer team. So tell me a little bit more about the Voice of the Customer team.
Wait, so is this Amanda White?
Yes, that's right.
That's so funny. Yeah, so I did not know that she was in partnerships. Yeah, so she leads this team now, and it's grown over the years. And it actually also, I forget where it used to sit before, but now it sits under Chris Hogan. So they're partnering very closely together. And so her team is immensely helpful in aggregating a lot of different feedback that we're getting from different sources. The three in particular that I look at is NPS. So we have an in-app tool to collect real-time NPS from customers using HubSpot. The second is feedback from customers that's gathered from the customer success team. And then the third is feedback from prospects that's gathered from the sales team. So we have these three different sources, and their team is aggregating it, like pulling up the top insights. The things that I love from it is I can see which features are being requested the most often. And that's really helpful, for example, when we're planning our product strategy and product roadmap.
And tell me, is it true that in some discussions, they put in the meeting room a avatar or representative that is the customer? So when you are brainstorming about the features and so on, you actually pretend the customer is in the room? Or is that a tale that isn't quite true?
That it could be true. I personally haven't experienced that, but I know that I can attest that HubSpot is customer first. I mean, one example that's not that is like, we often, if you're speaking with a customer and you're a HubSpotter, you might say, can I record this conversation so I can share it with my colleagues? And during QBRs, which like have a lot of important people in the room, we might clip to that specific video so you can hear the feedback directly from the customer. And it's really impactful because it's not me saying like, I mean, it's helpful that I have the data and I'm saying like X% of people want this feature, but then if you couple that with you're hearing the customer pain and they're saying it directly, that's a really powerful combination.
So, yeah, we've spoken a lot about data here. What are some of the challenges that you see people have with data?
I mean, this kind of like goes against everything I just said, but I think sometimes people struggle with too much of it. I could literally spend all day looking at dashboards. Because there's so much data and there's so many interesting insights. But at the end of the day, that's not going to move my business. And so I think someone like me, a value add can bring is like that hands-on experience of speaking with customers, speaking with sales reps. And so when I'm getting this steady stream of data, I can say like, yes, this is something that I'm continuing to see and I want to look into and I want to have conversations with folks about it. Or this seems like a blip because we've only seen it one time. Or this seems like a trend, but it's a lower priority. So I think being able to like see the forest through the trees is important there. So
let's take a segue. We've been speaking about data a little bit. So let's take a segue and speak a bit about creativity, right? So, you know, part of kind of go-to-market is the messaging, putting your product out there. Now, how much of that is it kind of equal parts using what you know, the data and creativity, or how does that kind of align kind of around messaging?
With like marketing specifically?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we do have a lot of good data, and that helps guide what our strategy is. And then I think that our marketing team is like just top notch at creating these narratives and creating a really compelling story about what we're trying to say. And they also have a very good handle on the competitive landscape. So I know what competitors are doing and what's going on in the market, but they specifically know how competitors are positioning themselves and how we can express how we're different from that competition. So one example, I think most folks on the call probably have heard our crafted, not cobbled narrative. And that just came out in the last year or two from our HubSpot marketing team. And I love it because number one, it's true. Everything is built on the same platform. The data flows from one hub to another, but also because it really highlights how HubSpot is different from the competition. And it sounds good. Like I couldn't make that up. So
yeah, and I suppose that's similar to the flywheel story. I mean, like that you know, was a story that kind of resonated for so long. It still does. But yeah, it's a huge creative element to take something that's fairly complex and make it into a memorable story.
Yeah, totally agree. And even like the visuals, like being able to put an image next to something so it helps people remember, I think is a really good, valuable skill.
Absolutely. So on my digital surfing podcast, I always ask people, you know, tell me kind of a story or an example of where something kind of you know, hasn't gone exactly to plan, something that you'll never forget. Maybe it's a hard lesson, something like that. Do you have anything like that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think this lesson is important for everyone. I continue to learn it again and again. And Yamini, who you'll hear from, has coined this term that alignment eats strategy for breakfast, which is so true. So a time when I really learned this was when I was managing partnerships back in a former role. And most folks know if you have a channel program, you really have to look out for channel conflict. And so when I see the smile, so when we originally launched the program, we relied on partners to help us scale. Like our product was new, we were just trying to sell it to everyone that we could. And so we had a direct sales team, we had a partner sales team, and it wasn't an issue because there were so many customers to acquire, so we weren't selling to the same customers. Over time, though, we started to see success. So we grew our direct team, we grew our partner team, and there weren't really guardrails on who could sell to who. And so they ended up selling to the same customers. And that created customer confusion, elongated the sales cycle, really wasn't positive for anybody. So what we had to do was I had to speak with the direct sales leader to figure out how should we update our strategy going forward. And what we landed on was many things, but the crux of it was our direct sales team will sell and our partners will support with the services. And I think more important than that, what we did was we got folks aligned. So like the first step was me working with this woman to create our core strategy. And then what we did is we brought in peers and partners throughout the process. And so we said to them, like, here's what we're thinking. What do you guys think? Can you give us feedback? And we got feedback from all these core stakeholders and built it into our strategy. And that made us have a clearer message, a clearer strategy, helped us think through all the gotchas that there could be. And then when we went to go message this to the broader teams, we had these stakeholders who were literally cheerleaders for us in the room, from direct sales, from partners. And that helped everyone feel really comfortable with the plan. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to do this now. It was like, we're going to do this and everyone's excited and you can talk to these 20 people if you have questions. And so I think that alignment was like made a meeting that could have been a total disaster go really well and made the plan go really well.
Yeah, I can imagine in kind of a go-to-market role where you are developing, you're working with the product team, you're working with the sales team, you're working with the service team. if there isn't alignment, I mean, like if the sales team creates a strategy in a silo, it can absolutely be going, I mean, like if you take vector alignment, they could be going that direction and you want them to go in that direction. So in your role today in looking after Service Hub, how are you getting that alignment?
Yeah, so I'm using that same strategy, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it, really, more so in this role probably than other roles that you could be in. But I think it's the same thing. So like working with a core team to get a strategy, getting feedback from key stakeholders, and then sharing that plan widely with their support. So with Service Hub, we actually had a new general manager join us. Her name's Porvi. She comes from Salesforce. She's amazing. If you haven't met her yet, you have to. And so she joined 3 months ago. And the first thing we did was just, get to know each other as a team. And the second thing we did was we created this multi-year product strategy. And this was just a small group of us who work directly on the product. And it was thinking about how we evolve and grow our business. And then once we had that plan like pretty decently formed, we took it to stakeholders. So Porvi and I did a roadshow. We incorporated a lot of feedback from our stakeholders. And in doing so, we made them internal champions. And then just a few weeks ago, which you were a part of, and thank you for joining us, we had this kickoff at Hubspot where, it was like a 2-hour meeting with all the different stakeholders presenting, telling everyone who was touching Service Hub within our organization what our plans were. And during the meeting, you didn't see this, but we had a Slack channel up, and all these like senior stakeholders are saying how excited they are about the plan. And so that helps everyone else who is in the meeting get really excited too. So I think it's like the same framework here, which is create a plan, get stakeholder feedback and buy-in, and then go share that with their support.
That's excellent. We actually, when we do HubSpot rollouts, we kind of do a similar approach in that we always, especially for large rollouts, we always train a pilot group first, get their feedback, pivot what we're going to do, and then take it to market. It's such an important kind of step to get that feedback. But let's talk in particular around kind of Service Hub and customer experience. There is, I constantly trying to think of new ideas, new businesses, entrepreneur at heart, but everything exists. And the way that people now have to differentiate themselves is on customer experience. So how does this impact the way business need to look at how they think about customer experience, and what trends are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, I totally agree with that there is a huge shift towards customer centricity. There's one quote, I can't remember who said this, but it's that 80% of customers would leave a brand after just one bad experience. So very true. And the 3 trends that we're seeing are, 1, digital expansion. This is pretty obvious, but it's worth stating that customers are going online. They expect businesses to be online. Number 2 is automation and artificial intelligence are becoming more common. And number 3 is that collaborative working is here to stay. So those are the biggest trends that we're seeing right now.
That's interesting. I don't know how to actually pronounce this because I'm with my South African kind of background, but the online shoe retailer in the US, is it Zappos or Zappos? How do you say that? Zappos. Okay, cool. So yeah, I read that the founder's book, and he was saying that their greatest kind of advocates all had a negative first experience, but it's how they actually dealt with that negative experience that turned them into their biggest advocates. So customer experience is so important. Do you have do you have any examples that you might want to share?
I mean, I have one example that recently happened, and it was like a bad experience. And so I'm not sure that these folks could turn me around, but they might be able to. So I was recently, I don't think I shared this in my bio, but I do live outside of Boston, and it's cold here. It's cold for like a long time, like until May. And so we are planning a family vacation to go to Florida with my mom and my sister. All of our families are going. And so we heard about this great resort. I went online to go book the reservations for us, and there's 10 different buildings, and there's a bunch of different types of rooms. And so when you go to book online, you can choose your room, but you don't know which building you're going to end up in. And this is an issue because I want to be next to my mom and my sister. So I personally hate talking on the phone. Zoom is okay, but phone I do not like. And so what I want to do is like chat in with a rep, figure out it on my own, maybe text message with them, and they don't offer any of this. And so I do have to call in. But this is an example of they're not offering their business online. They're not letting me do business online because I have this specific channel I want to use and they don't offer it. And so then I call in and the rep is like not happy to be speaking with me. And so since I work on a service tool, I know that in the industry, reps are not super happy with their jobs because they are answering the same questions over and over again. There's a lot of turnover with customer service. So I get that, but what this company should be doing is they should offer a place where, again, I can go find out the information on my own, or if I chat in, they have a bot, automation, artificial intelligence that can answer my questions for me, so that then this rep can focus on like really complex and interesting work. So that's trend number 2 that this company is not doing a great job at. And then on the collaboration piece, I don't think it relates to my example so much, but I think this is like pretty intuitive too, which is everyone is working remotely now. So you need to enable teams to have really clear, easy communication amongst themselves. So like marketing, sales, service teams need to be able to communicate easily to provide for that great customer experience. So I do think though, like I have heard that this resort is good, and if I go there, I am hoping that the experience is better. So maybe they'll win me over.
You know, one of my first rollouts of Service Hub was at a resort, and it was interesting because they had all these different business systems, and they couldn't get that single customer view. And if a customer had a bad experience somewhere, say, for example, they got to their hotel room and it hadn't been cleaned, there was no way to record that. So we set it up so they could record that in Service Hub. And that night when that customer went to the restaurant, they could get given a complimentary drink or something like that. So funny that you told that story when that was actually my first. Yeah.
We were just talking to a yachting company it was like the same thing. They said, we have VIP customers, we have new customers. We want the reps to know about those customers before they get there so they can tailor like how they're speaking to them and what they're offering them. So it makes a ton of sense.
So 2 last questions to wrap up. Can you give us a piece of advice that you've received that you've carried throughout your career?
Yeah, so I, for whatever reason, this advice stuck with me. I don't know why, but it did. I was interviewing for a job like 5 years ago, and I felt like I was really qualified. I had great relationships, great experience. The interviews were fine, but I didn't get the job. And so I asked why, and they said, it seemed like you were running from your current role versus being excited about this role. And that just stuck with me. And so now, like, I think I'm interviewing for folks on my team, and I think it's really true that like you should be super excited and positive during the interview process, and that'll pay off.
That's really interesting. Talking about job interviews, someone once told me that don't shy away from telling people that you're a surfer, because most people think that, because he's a surfer, he's going to be like a lazy beach bum. But what you actually need to turn that around and say, because I'm a surfer, I'm really, really good at time management. I can always find a time to go and surf at high tide. And I tried that. I got 3 job offers in one day back in the day when I was looking for.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Yeah, I would think that you're like calm under pressure if you tell me that.
Can't you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So last question is, I know you're the exec sponsor for women at Hubspot. So any particular bits of advice for women in the workplace?
Yes, so I just finished reading this book called Playing Big by Tara Moore. It was recommended to me by Nancy Riley, who's a GM at HubSpot. And the book is all about, if you're going to play big, you're going to get feedback and criticism. And I won't speak for all women, but I think that some might take that feedback and criticism as like, they don't like my work, they hate me, and kind of shy away from playing big. But really, you can change your mindset and say, this feedback is actually a sign that people care about what I'm doing, that they want to offer me their differing points of view. And it's a sign that you are playing big. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming up this year, and I'll pledge with you, Daryn, that I'm going to play big in 2022.
I'm excited about that, and it's
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I think most likely we will be chatting again, because I'm sure you'll want to share kind of launch stuff around Service Hub, what's coming in the future, and so on. So this won't be the last time we chat, but thanks so much for joining us. It's been a fantastic session. Thanks to all the listeners who have been tuned in throughout the session. I've been watching those numbers, and they've been staying up there, so thank you so much. And next up, we've got another session after this one.
Excellent. Thank you so much.